All right, guys. Even though this Manchester United save is kind of a real quick save, one, maybe two seasons and done type of thing, I'm still doing scouting and I'm still looking especially at young players to bring in because that's kind of how you play the game. The truth is that the best part of Football Manager is always playing with the new gens because when you play with new gens, you might find some guy who you've never heard of before who becomes like a legend in your own mind. So let me go ahead and show you like how I do this, how I go about evaluating players that come in on the scouting report. We'll go ahead and move myself up here so you don't have to, you can see all of the whatever is down there below, stuff down here. The way that I do this is pretty simple. I go through in the game, I went and found a whole bunch of players from a bunch of like national teams, and I think mostly from other Premier League clubs, and I said, I want you to go look at this player to my scouts, and I put a big emphasis on guys who I knew were new gens, and we're going to go look at them, and then we're going to decide kind of what we want to do. There are a couple of things that I'm looking for here, right? There are things that I want to see. I want to see, so here with Pablo Ortiz, who I've said no to, I want to see that he's consistent. That's the important part. I'm looking for personality. Lighthearted is okay. You're looking for personalities, though, especially that have high levels of professionalism, right? You want players who are model citizens, who are model professionals, or who are perfectionists, or who are resolute. Right. You can also do with players who are spirited and to an extent lighthearted. It depends upon what type of team you have, and it depends upon like how good the dynamics are in your clubhouse. So if we look at at the squad just generally, so you can sort players by personality, and look at that model citizens on the top. Right. See, these are the ones you really like. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 players who are model citizens, which is good. What that means, of course, is that when we bring young players in, there's this like great thing at the first team where we can get those players quickly to become model citizens themselves. Even if there's not a mentoring group set up, because the professionalism level is so high, it will spill over to the other players. We have one who's a perfectionist, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 who are professional. Model professional means that their professionalism level is 20. Professional, I think, means it's like 15 to 20 or something like that. I can't remember what the rules are off the top of my head. I know that they're good. Perfectionist is good. Model citizen is good. That's kind of the ideal. Iron-willed players are good in terms of determination. I think they have a determination of like 20 or some crazy thing like that. Not necessarily in terms of professionalism, but their professionalism won't be too bad. Resolute tends to be good. Driven tends to be very good. That's what you want. And spirited is also good in general in terms of professionalism. This stuff, fairly ambitious, fairly determined, is not necessarily so great. Fairly professional is a little bit better. That means that the player has a professionalism level. It might not be stellar or perfect, but it is high. We care about professionalism because professionalism has a lot to do with the player's mood, with their morale, with their ability to get along with teammates, and with how they respond to criticism. If you have players who are really unprofessional, it will show because you'll criticize them or say something or do what you're supposed to do, and the player will get mad at you and accuse you of something or do something that's totally ridiculous. You see that? If you're seeing that a lot in your Football Manager save, that is a sign that your player does not have very high professionalism. Another way to check to see if the professionalism is high, this doesn't always come up on the scout reports, but you can go over here to the information about the player and look to the media handling style. Unflappable, I think, is okay. Let's see if we can find a better example, though. Duncan Edwell, it's unflappable again. So let's see if we can find one who's something different. This is also unflappable. Well, how about that? They're all the same media handling style. Reserved, however, is what you want. You want a person who's going to be reserved and is not going to talk with the media a lot. That is an example of somebody who has a good media handling style. I can't remember off the top of my head if unflappable is a good one or not. It may be because all of these guys, of course, are legends and have high levels of professionalism, of course. That's why they're on the squad. We'll look and see what Ronaldo's like. He's outspoken, which is a little bit rare. That usually does not reflect high professionalism. But it's kind of like two things you look at together, right? Perfectionist itself means he has high professionalism, right? The media handling style tends to be like the one or two media handling styles that happen to be strongest in this player, and that's kind of how that part of the personality comes out. So when we go back and look at that, we're keeping all that in mind. There are a couple of things we want to avoid, right? So we said no to Ortiz because he's fairly susceptible to injuries, right? We don't want players who are going to come on this team and get hurt. You can see here in the inbox, I got 79 of these to go through, so we're not going to go through all 79 together. This guy, Gutierrez, doesn't have anything that I don't like. Personality, however, is balanced. It depends upon what type of team you have. If you have a team like Mars FC, you're not going to pay attention to the personality because they all have bad personalities. But on this team, someone who's balanced really doesn't belong. We need players with good, positive personalities with good levels of professionalism. Based on that alone, I would say no to this guy. The other thing you can look at here, by the way, is the scout recommendation, which is F, right? That means basically, so we don't have star attributes, star rankings here, and we don't have the attribute numbers. What that F means, though, is that this guy, if he had a star rating, would probably be like a 1-star potential at most. So we're going to say no to him. Now, remember that star potential is relative to your squads. You don't always have to say no to a player like that. But see, in the case of like Milan Mitic, we're going to say no to him as well for the same reason, right? Because he's getting an E or an F. That's not really what we want to see. This guy, Galfi, is unambitious. We don't like to see that. Right, this guy here, Tibor Seaman, is getting a D, which is interesting. 16-year-old goalkeeper. Might be a guy to take a chance on. So let's say we want to take a chance on this one. We're looking at this guy and we're thinking, yeah, okay, this isn't too bad. We do need to have goalkeepers somewhere on the squad. He's 16. Things might happen. Maybe he sucks. Maybe he's an awful player. Well, great. Then when he turns like 18, we put him out on loan. We can get some money from him. That's the way that I think about this. So what we do then is we make an offer. Now, I'll tell you something about the way that this works and kind of the secret I've learned is that when you have a team that actually has money, right? We have a 7.47 million transfer budget. They went from 50,000 to 140,000. Usually you can just offer them 50,000 and many times they will take it, right? Where you see a lot of negotiations is where you start playing with that price, or if you offer them a little bit less or try to do something fishy or funny or something like that. Usually when it's chump change like this, I just go to suggest terms. Look at that. They took it right off the bat. Finalize offers. So when this comes around again, we'll talk with Seaman again and we'll see what he wants in terms of salary. He'll want like nothing. We'll put him on the squad and I'll forget about him till it's time to loan him out. Now, next one, Alan Contreras, we're going to say no to for 3 reasons. The volatile player personality doesn't belong in the squad. I don't like spending time arguing with players. He will argue with you. He's susceptible to injuries, which isn't great, and then he's also showing is inconsistent. So there are 3 big like red flags for me. It's injury proneness, inconsistency, and dislike of big matches. He's only 17, this player, so we can't see if he likes big matches or not. So one of them we just don't know. We do see, however, that his inconsistency is not he's inconsistent, and we also see the susceptibility to injuries. Now, where does all this come from? There is literally a thing inside the game. I don't have the editor on, so we can't see it for him. But there is an attribute within the game that will tell you, like, this guy has a rating on injuries from, like, 1 to 20, where I think 1 is, like, he's going to fall apart in every match, and 20 means he's an Iron Man, right? There's also a similar rating for consistency, where 1 means that he's really inconsistent, 20 means he's, like, the best consistent player ever, and also for big matches. 1 means he absolutely hates them, and 20 means that he loves them and can't get enough of them. That's what this is telling you here. This you can see here is orange, which means that he doesn't like them, but it's not necessarily that bad, but we're still going to say not interested. Where it's red, if we come up with 1, that's going to be even worse. This guy's balanced, whatever. We're not going to look at him too much. This is another guy who he's professional. See, this is where I take a second and say, well, this is interesting. He doesn't really want to come to us. We can ask the agent and say, what does he want? He's not interested. His age means he'd be unable to complete the move in the near future, right? It would take a couple of years. So what we do is we shortlist him and we acknowledge. And that's kind of the way that we do this, right? So the fact that we're not able to get this player signed quite yet doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean, oh, well, we're never going to try him at all, or we're just going to let this one go or whatever. We want to keep this guy on the short list because something might happen. Maybe in 2 years, he's more willing to come over. Maybe we go back and we look at him again with the scouts in like a year or 2, and we see that, oh man, he's developing into a great player. And then we're like, we really want this guy now, and we can still get him cheap when he's 18 or whatever, instead of waiting until he's like 25 and then paying through the nose for him. So that's what we do in that case. Here's another one. This guy is realistic, which is actually a kind of a negative personality, and they're giving him an E. We're just going to say no to him. And here's another one who you can see here. This is a red one. It's a almost not super dark, but it's a total red with injuries. Might have a problem. We're going to stay away from that problem. I don't want to find out if he has a problem or not. Ivanovic, inconsistent, and you can sort of see how we go through this. Here's a red inconsistent, where it says should be focusing on becoming a more consistent performer at this stage of his development. So I think you get the idea. This is just sort of the way that you can do this. This doesn't really take that much time unless you're talking through it. Once you kind of get the basics of this in your head, it's easy to figure out which players you want to bring on and which players you want to get rid of. Never be scared of signing youth players that are just not really that good. I would be scared of them if they're injury prone and if they're really inconsistent. You're like, this player is never going to become anything, right? But if they're getting like a bad grade, if they get an E or an F or whatever, don't worry about it too much, because you don't know what's going to happen. It might be the case that, yeah, they're really bad, and okay, well, that's what you expected. You might still be able to get some money out of them by loaning them out. Or it might be the case that they turn, surprise, surprise, into like a world beater and the scouts were wrong. And, then you have a really good player that you got for like absolutely nothing. So that's the approach that I take to this. I'd love to know if anybody has any other suggestions or any other approaches or anything like that. When you get like the feel of it and you get the hang of it, it actually goes pretty fast and it's quite enjoyable. Anyway, that's it for today. Talk to you later. Bye.